Well, joining us this morning, we've got Dr. Olufemi Adegoke, who is the Chairman, Steering Committee of Yoruba Summit Group. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today on the program. Well, thank you. This matter came up again yesterday. The former president, as a matter of fact, had a different perspective. He thinks, look, there are certain things that need to be done about restructuring. We can't go on the same way about it. I mean, you heard this speech. He talks about us restructuring our minds, nepotism, tribalism. These are things that we need to address, and that they even exist not just at the federal level, but at the state and local government level, which is deeper than many people think. So he is of the opinion, if we don't do something about that, you can't restructure in isolation. Do you share the same thought, or what do you think?
Right.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Right. I said for President Jonathan to come at this point in time to tell us that we need to restructure our minds rather than restructuring the country, it's a bit funny. Let me put it that way. This was somebody who was at the helm of affairs for about 6 years. And at the tail end of his tenure, when he was seeking re-election, he convoked the 2014 conference, Sovereign National Conference, which was supposed to usher in restructuring. But rather than get off the ground running with it, because he had about 9 months, he waited until his time was over and he lost the election and nothing could be done. Then the Buhari administration came in and said they were having nothing to do with the restructuring. Now, to cut a long story short, 2023 is in the horizon, and all these shenanigans that people are talking from two sides of their mouths is just a way of positioning themselves for 2023. Before the elections, they will promise heaven and earth. They will talk about restructuring. They will talk about electoral reforms and everything. The moment they get there, nothing gets done. And they will say, oh, give us some time. You know, we just came in. Before you know it, one crisis or the other will be orchestrated. While they are dealing with that, another election cycle is in the offing. So that's the game that is being played, and people are tired of this. The National Assembly is forever amending the Constitution. You can't keep on amending this Constitution because it is flawed right from the bottom. It needs to be thrown away completely and a new Constitution brought in. And we are not asked to come and reinvent the wheel here. We had a constitution that was negotiated. People say, oh, well, that constitution had its problems and so on. Within that constitution, there were means of addressing all sorts of things there.
Okay.
That was how the Midwestern region came into being.
Okay, Dr.
Agoge,
we'll equally get a lot more.
Okay.
We'll get a lot more of your perspectives in just a moment, but just hang on. Let's equally get to Abuja for the opening perspectives as well. Bakwe.
Indeed, Chamberlain, we have with us Alhaji Mohammed Yakubu, who is a member of the National Working Committee, Arewa Consultative Forum, here with us in the studio. You're welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Happy New Year to you.
Same to you.
And it would seem that we're starting the year again with another talk around restructuring. It would seem that no matter how we try to run away from this topic, it just always comes back.
Yeah.
And somehow it always makes its way back at the beginning of every year.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts this time around? Because we have eminent people speaking on the matter. You cannot dismiss the voice of someone like President Goodluck Jonathan, INEC Chairman Mohammed Jaga, I think that's his name. And also the prominent personalities that we have seen there. And it would seem that, not everyone is singing from the hymn sheet. Yes, restructuring, but the president says, restructure your mind first. What do you think?
Let me, first of all, good morning, Nigerians. Let me, first of all, correct the impression by Dr. Adegoroye. I'm not speaking for Goodluck Jonathan. I was there at the Daily Trust dialogue yesterday. What former President Goodluck Jonathan said is that he concurred on the issue of restructuring. He said there's a need to restructure. But in addition to restructuring, we need to restructure our minds too, which I totally agree with. Some of us in my own group, not as ACF, we have our own small think tank to our own small group. What some of us think about this restructuring is that this restructuring means it has different meanings to it. Depends on who is speaking about it. Has a different meaning to it. There are those who think it should be total resource control. There are those who think there should be devolution of power, and so on. Like yesterday at the Daily Trust dialogue, you had divergent views. But some of us, what we think will be in the best interest of this country now is to look for somebody. 2023 is around the corner. Is to look for the best material that will lead this country. The issue, this nomenclature attached to wherever the president or wherever a leader is coming from, maybe zoning or so on, it has some side effect. It has some mental effect on the candidate. When you say zone A should produce the president now, that zone will just go and sit down lazily and say, okay, it's our turn to have the president. It's our turn to just sit down and do whatever we feel like. But if you have the best material, wherever that person comes from, we should remove that nomenclature called zoning from it.
So you think this is about leadership?
It's about leadership. If we have 20 new constitutions, if we don't address weak institutions, restructure characters that lead that institutions, we are not going to make any progress. Let me just quickly give you an example of what happened in America now.
I will let you put that example when we come back from this break.
Yeah.
Please stay with us.
Stay connected to the world with Channels TV Podcast and get all the trending stories. Simply log on to channelstv.com, click on podcast, select the program of your choice, and listen. Our podcast is available on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Tap the expertise you trust. Touch the stories that touch you. Anytime, anywhere.
Well, Alhaji Mahmood Yakubu is still with us. He's a member of the National Working Committee of the Arewa Consultative Forum. And you were just about to give us an example. I think you were mentioning the United States.
Yeah. Recently, what happened in the United States, the former President Donald Trump, what he attempted to do, if the U.S. does not have a strong institution and strong characters managing those institutions, he would have messed America up. What we should emphasize in Nigeria is strong character to manage our and strengthen our institutions. Once we have that, we are good to go. No matter the number of constitutions. Now, Dr. Adegoroye is saying that we should have a brand new constitution. How do you have a brand new constitution? How do you have a brand new constitution? Do we ask our National Assembly members now to go home and sit down? How do we do it?
Yeah, but there are those who continue to talk about a feeding bottle federalism. Yeah. The fact that, that itself alone poses a problem. The fact that every end of month, states generally come to Abuja to come and say, FAC. They're going for FAC meeting. And then, Demilan, the money is distributed and that's it. They believe that sort of lifestyle cannot in any way engender production in the States.
I totally agree with you. What I'm saying is that in addition to restructuring, just to add to what former President Jonathan said, in addition to restructuring, we need to restructure our institutions, strengthen them, and strengthen the characters that manage those institutions. I can quickly give you another example. Why Chief Umodo was talking about First Republic is because we have strong institutions and strong characters managing them. There's an example in the north then. Late Chief Sunday Awoni was secretary to the late premier. The late premier wanted an aircraft for a trip and requested that through Chief Awoni. Chief Awoni replied back that that aircraft has been booked to go and pick a local person in one of the villages to bring him to the hospital in the town. Can you tell me now if any subordinate of a principal now can look up to his principal and tell him that no, this is what needs to be done? That's why we have problems. Sycophancy, hypocrisy. If we have strong institutions, strong characters managing them, we are good to go. So in addition to restructuring, I agree with Mahmoud, I agree with Atahiru Jega that powers needs to be devolved.
The question is, when are we going to have, so as you rightly said, it's in addition to major changes that need to be done. You agree that the changes that we're talking about are fundamental. So when do you think that these fundamental changes are going to happen? We seem to be beating around the bush.
No, they are ongoing. Government is continual. They are ongoing. Like now, the ACF is making arrangements, making some proposals, putting some proposals together that we will send to the National Assembly. What we think should be done. What I expect Dr. Adegoroye to do from his own group, they have representatives in the National Assembly.
Why does it have to be these groups? I mean, a party like the APC promised restructuring as one of their mandates. At some point, when the agitation was quite loud after they had taken office, they put something together. I mean, they asked the governors to do something in their states, and then they came up with a document. Why hasn't the APC, for instance, or even the federal government that constantly keeps telling us that, oh, it lies with the National Assembly, why have they not been able to put a document together that, you know, they can take and say, you know, National Assembly, in fulfillment of our promises to the Nigerian people, this document we think will fundamentally be able to shift things, you know, for the betterment of Nigeria.
So some of us have the same question for the party in power.
Don't you smell a rat?
Whatever we smell, if they are not ready to do it, we as the people should put ourselves together. Like yesterday, there was Honorable, at that dialogue, Honorable Kumalia made a suggestion which I totally agree with, which is to show that if the government is not ready to do what they promise, we have a way to do it. We have a way that we can put things together. If the ACF, the Ohanize, the Afenifere comes together, round table, and sit down and decide what they think should be done, we present it to the National Assembly. We can't throw away the National Assembly. What options do we have? That would be anarchy.
Well, what do you think, though? Do you think that it definitely will not go in the way, come out the way it went in, that sort of document? Isn't that right?
No. Look, what some of us are thinking in my own group, I'm not speaking for ACF now. What some of us are thinking is that since independence in this country, 1960, 64 or 63, we have various constitutional conferences. We can put them together. Look at areas that could be, the world is dynamic. Look at areas that could be beneficial to the country, areas that are in tune with the time. Put them together, give the National Assembly. The National Assembly cannot continue every season of the National Assembly continue to do amendments of the Constitution. We can put this together, give them, and they amend it. I totally agree with restructuring. But in addition to that, excuse me, we should strengthen our institutions, strengthen the characters that manage those institutions. That is what we should give more emphasis to. Not brand new constitution. If we have 20 constitutions in this country and our minds are not restructured, we will be where we are.
Let's throw it back to Lagos now and see what our guest has to say. Gentlemen.
Yeah, well, thank you, Malkwe. Well, Dr. Adegoke, you may want to react to some of the things you've heard first.
Right. This is just a question of going in circles. What Yoruba people call going on an arrogant, errand. You just keep on going in circle, restructure your mind, restructure, you need institutions. Who are the people to put the institutions there? The ground has to be prepared for good institutions to come up. And the only way this can come up is when power is given back to the people. And the only way power can be given back to the people is to make sure that people are elected within their locality where they are known. A situation where the political party is supposed to have offices in 36 states, the senator has to compete in several towns and so on and so forth. When we had parliamentary democracy, which we are talking about when we are talking about restructuring, let's go back to parliamentary system of government. Apart from the fact that it is cheaper for people to run elections, people will be more accountable because they are closer to their people.
Okay,
and
how do you suggest, my apologies, how do you suggest we go back to that system that you're talking about? I mean, if you also listen to what Dr. Jega said, his opinion is that, look, we have already broken the 3 regions into 36 states. And a good number of these states, well, all of them, have tasted their individual autonomies and consequently created, some minority groups come with every state creation. So how do you see these states giving up their autonomy now to merge into the regions that you talk about?
Now, when you're talking about autonomy, that they've gotten their autonomy now, most of the states were carved out of what were called provinces then. And they had how they were being managed and how they were being run. What this system has done is to create so many bureaucracies so that people can have avenues to stick their knout into the trough where they can corruptly enrich themselves. Now the situation is the former areas that were broken up, they haven't been moved anywhere. What stopped them from going back to the status quo ante? Say, okay, all these Ogun State, your state, and so on and so forth, go back to your western region. All these other places, go back. Then from there, we can now start devolving back. If there is need for people to break up, then people will break up in an orderly fashion. Not the way the things have been done without consultation with the people. Somebody will stay in Abuja and will just take a pencil and paper and draw lines. Creating minorities everywhere. If people are allowed to congregate based on their mutual languages and culture, these things are very easy. The politicians are making it seem as if it is rocket science, as if it is difficult. It is not. All it needs to when something goes bad.
Yeah. What then happens to the governors? They
had places they had things they were doing before. They don't own the land. If the army takes over tomorrow, the army sends them away. Do they say what happens to the governors? All these type of questions, they are just trying to pull wool over people's eyes. Governors, that is the end of the show. You go and you are coming together now. Reduce your ministries. Let among yourself choose one of you to be the head. Maybe you'll be rotating it. All sorts of arrangements could be done. And moreover, people have been presenting papers on this aspect. It's just that the people who are there, they are so bent on continuing what they are doing, and they don't want to leave the place. That is the situation.
What then happens
so it's not a question of there is no solution.
So what about the impression that they gave there that something needs to be done about the mindset, nepotism? Because even if you seem to change the structure with those prejudices, it still will affect how people see things and may never bring about the kind of development that we want. Does that mean that, look, those views don't really matter?
No, it is putting the cart before the horse. You need to lay proper foundation first. And when people know that, these are our own people too. If your own people are putting people there, it's still within your own people. But you have somebody from outside coming to lord it over your own resources. That's where all these problems of nepotism come in. All this one that, somebody is in an office, he brings his brother there and so on. But those ones are minor issues that can be addressed locally. But we have to put the structure down, first of all. And when the structure is in place, all these other aspects will develop. People will pay attention to their education. People will pay attention to their environment. This idea of people in Abuja dictating the type of education that will happen all over the country is complete nonsense. Let all the people within their area determine what they need to do. There are some areas where they want to be versatile in mining, some in trading, some in IT. Let them fashion their education in those directions. We can't put a whole blanket all over the country and people have to develop at the same rate, and you put all this quota system and all the federal character in position. Those are the things that are creating these injustices that people are complaining about, that you are talking about, nepotism and so on. If those things are off the table, let government be local, then we'll have less problem. And people can develop their resources and they can grow. Everybody will be happy.
Well, Dr. Lukuke, following up on Chamberlain's question right now, there's been, I don't know how to put this to you, but it would seem like talking about this regionalization and the rest of them is pretty much saying that people should only people from a particular region should stay wherever they are. Because what President Jonathan was saying at that meeting, which also followed up on Chamberlain's question here, is that the sense of ownership of Nigeria is not as strong as a sense of ownership of the different regions. If that continues, that identity of a Nigerian wouldn't be as strong as the regional interests or identities or ethnic nationalities that people have, and which is contrary, I don't know if you agree, to the opinion a number of people have that we should have one Nigeria devoid of these sentiments, as opposed to making the regional and ethnic sentiments stronger than that of a Nigeria that everyone is working towards. What's your...
Well, my take on that is this. You can't undo what the Almighty has done. We were not created Nigerians. I wasn't born of Nigerian parents. I was born of Yoruba parents. And the same goes for different people in different parts of the world. You have people of Welsh origin, people of English origin, people who are Scots. They decided to come together. People must decide to come together and they have a shared vision of what a country should be. Not this idea of making everybody one country, and it's not possible. It's against natural laws. And that is why we are running into trouble. Let people have affinities for themselves. It will be based on mutual trust and respect. Everybody knows that the larger the market, the better we all are. Everybody would like to have a very strong country. So this idea of saying, because you are talking of Yoruba identity or Igbo identity, that doesn't make you less Nigeria. If Nigeria is indeed what it should be, everybody will be happy to be Nigerians. So the mere fact that people are clamoring for restructuring doesn't mean that they want to go out of the country. We are not, even if you say you form a new country now, you can't change your neighbors. They will still be your neighbors. People have intermarried. They will still live amongst ourselves. So all this idea of creating fears in people that, oh, if you do this, that is secession and so on, is all bunkum. Let us have this parliamentary system based on divisions that are people that are contiguous and people who have affinities amongst themselves. Let them organize themselves. Even within those areas, the Jeshas will organize themselves, the Ondos will organize themselves, and they will have representation. There will be many federations even within those areas. So that is what people are advocating. All this idea that people should go and restructure their mind. You can't restructure your mind. It's only people who are happy that can think. If you are hungry, you cannot think. Look at the crazy people all over the place. The country is going to blazes, and people are just playing with fire the way things are going. And with developments we are hearing all over the place, and the government is not even handling things properly. Everybody is focused on 2023. Let us pray we all live to 2023. But then we have to be sure that we have a country by then. That is the real cause of the matter. Okay. All this idea of people talking here and there and talking of your mind, how do we do it? Go to the National Assembly. That's not the way.
All right, just a moment.
All it takes is the will.
All right, then. Let's get Alhaji Yakubu's perspective. Mark?
Indeed, you have heard him. He believes that's not the way. He believes that somehow we have to start from the regions to develop affinity for ourselves, and then we can now begin to talk about Nigeria, as it were. What is your response to that? Because some people might read it and say, perhaps really what the crux of the conversation should be is Nigeria. I mean, we should be starting from the top. Since we already recognize that it would seem that traditionally or, somehow we have already been structured into regions by virtue of language, culture, and things of the sort. Maybe what we should be coming together to do is talk about this country.
Let me give you quickly a good example of restructuring of the mind, which Dr. Adegoro seems not to totally agree with. In 2015, do you realize that the number of cases after the election that went to court was less than what we have in 2019? Is because the president restructured his mind, President Goodluck Jonathan at that time, by conceding that election, by conceding defeat. That's why we have less rancor, less court cases at that time. So that is the advantage of restructuring our minds. I totally agree with Dr. Adegoro that we have challenges. It's obvious that's what goes with it's natural to countries. But at the same time, we should be extremely grateful to God that our challenges are human created, not natural ones. If you see what's happening in some other countries, what's happening in some other countries like climate change, ecological challenges and so on, we should be grateful. The problem we have in this country is leadership. That's why some of us are saying that 2023 is around the corner. We pray and hope that some of us will get there, and we hope and pray that the country will be in one piece then. What we think should be done, including people like Dr. Adegoro, is to start getting the best materials right from the grassroots up. If we have the best materials, like I told you initially, that this idea of zoning, if we remove that nomenclature, it has a mental effect on whoever is at the helm of affairs saying that, okay, I'm from zone A. So it's time for me to come and do whatever I like and get away with it.
How does that mean that that's what zoning is about? I mean,
tell me what has been happening since 1999 that we started this idea of zoning. I can tell you how it affects the mentality of whoever is at the helm of affairs.
Give an example.
Let me give you an example.
Let's start with President Obasanjo.
I'm starting with him. When President Obasanjo was president, you see what OPC from the Southwest were doing. When Jonathan Umaru Yar'Adua lived very shortly, when Jonathan took over, you see what was happening in the Niger Delta. It's because they think their own is at the top, is at the helm of affairs. They have license and liberty to do whatever they like. But if whoever is at the helm of affairs is the best material, what will be working in his head is that, look, I'm being privileged to be here because Nigerians think I can be just and fair to everybody.
That example doesn't quite work.
It works. If it doesn't work, okay, let me land. If it doesn't work, after when Jonathan took over, did you hear OPC behaving the way they were behaving when Obasanjo was president? Now that President Buhari is there, did you hear Niger Delta behaving the way they were behaving when Jonathan was president?
It was seen that in those times, there were peculiar problems. Let me give you an instance. So in Obasanjo's time, we talked about OPC.
Yes.
He didn't encourage OPC.
No, I'm not saying. Get me right. I'm not saying that whoever is at the helm of affairs is encouraging that. Yeah, but that is the feeling. That is the feeling those people from his area think about.
He didn't treat them with kid gloves.
I agree with that.
So I mean, that is on the one hand. Then the Niger Delta agitation started towards the twilight. I mean, the agitation has always been there, but the militant part of it started towards the twilight of President Obasanjo's administration. So much so that it blew up during President Yar'Adua's administration. Were they behaving in that manner because President Yar'Adua is from their area?
No. If you get the history properly, for the records, it started mildly during Obasanjo's time. But it blossomed when Jonathan was president.
No, the reason why I disagree with that particular example is because before President Goodluck Jonathan became president, President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua had to come up with the amnesty program. He came up with it while he was still alive. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Exactly. Yeah. So he was the vice president, who later became president, was only vice president at the time, with very little influence in that government.
But do you agree that when Jonathan became president, the militant aspect of agitation in the Niger Delta became more ferocious? Did you agree to that?
How do you mean?
It became more glaring. They become more daring. That's what I'm saying.
By this time, they had been granted amnesty, and so they were in the mainstream. By this time, the militants were in the mainstream because they had been granted amnesty. And in many instances, they were looking for plum government positions. But, that is argument for another day.
Why were they looking for plum positions? Is it not because they have their own as president?
No, because they felt that the resources of this country, which ran the entire country, came from there. They are the goose that lays the golden egg, and they felt entitled to, a share of what this country was producing. That's what they felt.
No, let me tell you another thing you didn't get quite right. Does it mean that each time a particular region is in power, that region, that leader of the country who comes from that particular region, the region has entitlement, has rights to entitlement?
I will answer that I pose, even though I'm not supposed to be answering questions. I'll pose another question to you.
Yeah.
Did Boko Haram raise its head in the year that it did, I think 2009 to 2011, raise its head in the manner that it did because their own was in power at the time?
No, you seems to be getting the perspective I'm coming from wrongly. What I'm saying is that it is not being encouraged by those at the helm of affairs. President Umaru Yar'Adua was not encouraging Boko Haram. But there are people from that region that thinks because their own is there, they can do whatever they like. That's what I'm saying. But if we have the best material to lead this country, the best material will have the mentality that, look, I'm here because Nigerians think I'm going to be just and fair. Once you have that kind of a leader who has that kind of mentality, there is no way people from his region will think that they have entitlement right to behave and do whatever they like.
I see the point you're trying to make, but perhaps the examples don't quite work.
No, it's working. It's because you think otherwise.
Well,
let me quickly add to it. You see the kind of division in America now, what the challenges Joe Biden is going to face. But one statement that he has made that is going to encourage unity in America is that he said he's going to be a president for all Americans.
America is a little different because the
America is different because they have organized
at least towards the tail end, we saw that actively encouraged the group. Yeah. You know, he did not pass, he didn't put his hands behind him. And I think that's what a lot of people are accusing the president of in this instance, especially when you look at what is happening in Ondo State and the statement that was released recently. I mean, those are two different scenarios that people respond to challenges they have in their area under a certain government, you know. Let me attempt that Ondo, the governor spoke wrongly. He should have dealt with the criminal aspect of the headsmen. All Fulanis are not headsmen, and most of them that are headsmen are not militants. What did he say in the statement? He said they should vacate the forest.
Exactly.
They should vacate the forest reserves.
Exactly.
What's wrong with that?
No, why is he saying that? It's because the criminal aspects of the headsmen are taking laws into their hands, are doing things that are criminal.
This is a statement that MACBAN in the state has supported. The herders in the state have supported.
Why is the presidency saying what he's saying?
Perhaps we should pose that question to them, but let's quickly go back to Lagos now, gentlemen.
All right, Dr. Adegoke, could you just go ahead as we wind down on this one now? How do you think, what practical steps should we be taking now to address this?
Well, it's very simple. If the will is there are ways the executive can package bills for the National Assembly to make laws that will guide how this process will take place. Because a lot has been written about the modalities for achieving this restructuring, if only people are ready to listen to it or to look through it. Many have been sent to the National Assembly. And just to go back to the gentleman in Abuja, it was very obvious the way he found himself in a bind, trying to argue back and forth. He couldn't articulate his point straight away. And you see, when you start mixing issues, you are talking about having how to elect good materials. Are you telling me that we can have good materials here from anywhere without the influence of money? Or money has to be part of this good material we are talking about? People, the way the election, the laws are written, and people have come up with electoral reforms. Jonathan embarked on it. The moment this administration came in, they abandoned it and they went back to the old ways, and everything is back to square one. There is rigging, there is ballot snatching, equating Jonathan not going to court with restructuring the mind is a misnomer. The man saw
Dr. Olufemi Adegoke. Pardon me, we need to hang quiet at this point. Dr. Adegoke is the chairman steering committee for Yoruba Summit. And we have also had the pleasure of hosting Muhammad Yakubu, who is a member of the National Working Committee of Arewa Consultative Forum. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us this morning.